Ladies and gentlemen, I was at the Aspen Comedy Festival last year, and I saw a really funny, one-of-a-kind performance called White Trash Wins Lotto. It's a musical that follows the journey of Axl Rose from small-town Indiana to global rock stardom. And it's being performed this weekend at PS 122 right here in New York as part of the Toyota Comedy Festival. Please welcome the cast of White Trash Wins Lotto.
Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to GNR Central. And this is a story that maybe you guys haven't heard before. It kind of flew under the radar, and it dates back to August of 1998. So Axl Rose was basically the inspiration for a pretty well-known musical that came out around this time. So the Los Angeles Times published an article saying Axl the musical ? Andy Preboy skewers the music industry in a satire work in progress that tells the story based on Guns N' Roses. I want to be in a metal band, please let me sing for you. With this simple plea, singer-songwriter Andy Preboy and a handful of players on the tiny stage at the Largo nightclub invite their audience into an unflinching rock and roll burlesque, a revealing portrait of the music business in all its despicable glory. So White Trash Wins the Lotto was the name of the Broadway-style musical satire that twists the rags to riches saga of superstar metal band Guns N' Roses. It's brutal but so dead-on hilarious that the record biz types are filing to the Fairfax District Club to capacity for Preboy's monthly performances. So the clamor is a welcome sound to the veteran musician who is probably best known for replacing singer Stan Rigway in the 80s LA band Wall of Voodoo. He basically made a mark with his poignant 1990 ballad Tomorrow Wendy, which was recorded by Concrete Blonde. So last December, Preboy signed a publishing deal for his musical, allowing him to keep working on the show while he decides what form it will ultimately take. He's already had offers from stage, screen, and cable TV. Not bad at all for a still developing project that started out as a joke. So during an interview at the Silver Lake home studio, Preboy described as inspiration a neighboring couple who wrote bad Broadway musicals. So while listening to them ply their craft one night about 2 years ago, Preboy said he idly wondered how my neighbors, having no rock and roll background, would have interpreted the Axl Rose story. It had all the characteristics of a great Broadway musical. Young boy comes from nowhere with a truck full of dreams, conquers the world, and almost loses his soul. He immediately wrote some of the lines he said were so awful I was laughing. He soon worked a few songs into his regular Largo performances, and audience reactions were so positive that in recent months, Preboy shows have featured the musical exclusively. I thought it was incredibly innovative and very funny, said Danny Strick, the president of BMG Songs, the U.S. music publishing company that will help Preboy get the show produced. Strick views White Trash as a classic musical, not a rock musical per se. Even though the story involves a rock band, he deals with the music business in an allegorical way, Strick noted, with sharp observations about the consequences of success. So the story basically unfolds through 14 members that satirize Broadway musical conventions while skewering a range of music biz star making shenanigans. So here's a clip of White Trash Wins the Lotto from that Conan O'Brien broadcast.
Let's imagine that the overture has played and the house lights dim and we find ourselves looking at a darkened stage. Now, what does that darkened stage represent? It represents the warm, moist, fertile, fecund womb of the heavy metal revolution. Ground zero, where it all begins. Now, from that darkness comes a primitive, primordial sound. And what would that be? Would it be the cry of a babe or the shriek of a wounded animal? No. From that darkness comes the incessant, mind-numbing chatter of an early 80s classic rock DJ.
Put me on a gurney, that was an hour of journey. I am the crazy man. It's a Friday. My parents died in a fire, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be down at the Comedy Store this weekend seeing Elaine Boozler, Richard Belzer,
now
and
over
Sam
this, somebody
Kinison.
plays heavy metal noodle riffs, while a drummer tunes his rack toms.
We shoot you, kapow! We're going to beat the Red Onion, giving away all kinds of SWAG swag.
Hero arrives and drinks in the splendor of the Guitar Center. At this moment, he knows his destiny has been met.
I want to be in a metal band. Please, may I sing for you? Sing of kings, of dreams and of illusions. Sing to bring a light to this confusion. Listen, man, I'm ready and I'll make my stand in a metal band. I know I can.
Thank Wall Street and the Gipper. Thank God for Donald Trump. Just hear those New York takers. No longer in a slump. Parents are rich and hipper. The bonds they buy are junk. Their kids come to the strip here for the glitzer. Grab and glitzer at the guitar center of the guitar center. World famous guitar center. We aim to represent here entertainment and the center sunset strip.
I know I can.
So in 2016, Andy Preboy gave an interview where he reflected a bit on white trash wins the lotto. He was interviewed by Clyde Arts and Culture, and he was asked, in your musical White Trash Wins the Lotto, you skewered the archetypal star-eyed rise of the 80s hair metalers. By all accounts, it was really well received. What's the tale behind its inception, and have you considered revisiting the show or perhaps telling a different tale in a similar format? To which he responded, I skewered them all. Goths, punks, synth bands, glam, metal dudes, strippers. I skewered all the early 80s subgroups vying to musically define the decade. I danced on the grave of my own aspirations and laughed. With Axl as a stick, I whacked record label fines and their lower level imps. I skewered bitchin' rock nicknames and music store clerks. I skewered rock junkies. I skewered the endless migration of hopeful hicks to Los Angeles. And I made fun of rock's excesses, its self-pity, self-importance, and its a maudlin cult of a youthful death. I skewered the rock pilgrimage to Jim Morrison's grave. And he went on to say that his real inspiration was Danny Sugarman's book, Appetite for Destruction, which he did an interview for before he passed away. So Danny Sugarman had passed away a number of years ago, and he gave an interview, I think it was to MTV or some other news station, talking about his book. In his book, he compared Axl Rose to Jim Morrison quite a bit. Here's the interview with Danny Sugarman.
And the Doors. And Guns N' Roses were, to me, the most interesting and exciting band around, which isn't to say that I think they're as brilliant as the Doors, simply that I was very interested in them, very affected by them.
A view naturally shared by the band's fans.
I just think they're not like all the other schlock heavy metal bands that are out there. All the ones that are generic and sound all the same.
Slash, that guitar playing. You know, Axl's great and the whole rest of the band's great, but the riffs that he gets out, man, those are sick.
They're not afraid. Moderation isn't important to them, and they're doing everything that we can't do anymore.
Heroes is in the tradition of the negative heroes, the James Dean, the Byron, the Rimbaud, the outlaw within society. And I think people are really starved for heroes. He's a larger-than-life personality who's on stage. He's not dead like Jimmy and Janis and Jim.
Not dead yet. Heroin is a demon with which both Guns N' Roses and Sugarman have been on a first-name basis. To paraphrase the subtitle of one of your earlier books, will anyone in Guns N' Roses get out of here alive?
I think they want to at this point, which is different from where they were 2 years ago. Axl Rose is not trying to kill himself with drugs and alcohol anymore, nor is Slash, or is he? From what I can tell, watching them and from the sources I know around them.
Danny Sugarman, who watched the self-inflicted demise of Jim Morrison, says Guns N' Roses, at least where drugs are concerned, appears to have curbed its appetite for destruction. Mark Shearer, CNN Entertainment News, New York.
So that does it for today's video, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Did you guys ever go see the play back in the day, White Trash Wins the Lotto? From reading some of the message boards, it seems like it was the hottest thing in LA that happened back in like the late 90s, and everybody was trying to get a ticket to it. And then all of a sudden, it fell off the radar, and it was never really revisited in the future. So, and even that interview he gave, his answer was almost like an old school Axl answer. It was like didn't give a definitive answer one way or the other as to whether it would come back. But I doubt we're going to see it anytime in the near future. And apparently what I read is Axl was invited to one of the showings, but of course he never ended up going to the actual Broadway play. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. And go check us out at gnrcentral.com for the latest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.
Hey, Hey, this is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and you're watching GNR Central. Yeah!